Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel where I help busy women entrepreneurs feel in control around sugar and carbs so they can lose weight permanently. In today's episode, we're gonna talk all about snacking. Ta-da! Snacking by far is one of the top things that trump women entrepreneurs from reaching their weight loss goals, even though they know that eating certain foods are not serving their body. And it's so frustrating because they know that these foods aren't good for them. Like they know that eating certain sweets or chocolates or whatever is in the pantry is making them gain weight, and yet for whatever reason, they keep doing it over and over. They keep snacking. So the million-dollar question is, why do they do this? Even though these women are really smart, they run successful businesses, why do they keep going to these snacks even though they know they shouldn't? Well, keep watching because by the end of this video, you're gonna learn my top 3 secrets on how to stop over snacking on sugar and carbs so you could finally feel in control around food even though you haven't been consistent with your eating habits all this time. So my first secret on how to stop over snacking is that you are in something called nutrient hunger and you actually need to eat more protein. Now I don't mean protein in something like this, Quest bars, like I don't mean these kind of proteins. I mean whole sources of protein from actual real foods, okay? There's a difference between real food and healthy food, quote unquote. People might think these sort of snacks are quote unquote healthy, but in reality, these foods don't actually have a whole lot of nutrients. In fact, they are, like you could just tell how processed they are because they have a long shelf life. They have an ingredients list, like you could see here, they like have a ton of ingredients underneath, like a whole section of ingredients here. And a lot of these kind of bars have a lot of sugar and carbs. So they don't fill you up all day, they make you super hungry, and they leave you in something called nutrient hunger, which makes you want to eat more food. This is actually based on a hypothesis called the protein leverage hypothesis. Now this hypothesis states that human beings will prioritize the consumption of protein in food over other dietary components and will eat until their protein needs have been met, regardless of the energy content. So that means even if you're eating a lot of carbs like granola or cereal, you could eat a whole bag and still not feel full because you haven't had enough protein. Now protein is very satiating. It's a macronutrient, which is basically a nutrient that our body needs in large amounts. Protein is a macronutrient that activates your fullness hormones and makes you feel full. But these kind of foods, these kind of snack foods, don't activate those same fullness hormones and they don't make you feel full. So what you need to do instead is you have to eat more foods that have whole food sources of protein, like meat. Some of my favorite meats are chicken and ground beef, seafood like salmon and shrimp. You have to eat more of these whole food sources of protein so you feel fuller longer. When it comes to protein, you also want to avoid anything that's like powderized, like a protein shake or protein powders of any sort, because they don't activate your fullness hormones in the same way that real food does. You see, when you eat something like a real food, like an avocado or fruit, those kind of foods take up space in your stomach. They expand your stomach. And so when your stomach's expanded, it sends signals to your brain that your food, that you've eaten and that you don't need any more food. But when you eat something powderized or something like a juice, it doesn't expand your stomach in the same way, so you still feel hungry. Now, secret number 2 is a big one, so you'll want to listen up. And it is that you must stop eating what you feel like eating in the moment and start planning your food ahead of time. Imagine if you started working on your business and you had no game plan, like you weren't sure when you were gonna go on calls with clients, you weren't sure what you were gonna do for the day. It makes you feel lost, it makes you feel sort of aimless, and then you end up getting nothing accomplished. Like, how many of you had days like that, right? So the same thing actually goes with your food. When it comes to your food, Your brain is very impulsive. In fact, your brain is wired to eat what's pleasurable in the moment. That's because our brains are wired for pleasure so we could survive. Back in the caveman days, we needed to eat for instant gratification to find food immediately, or else we would die. But in this day and age, since food is so abundant, we still have this sort of primitive part of our brain that wants to eat all the things, and so it keeps wanting to eat for instant gratification, and yet it hasn't got the signal that there's too much food and that we don't need to eat this much. So what you need to do is you have to stop eating in the moment, like stop eating impulsively based on what you feel in the moment, because most likely when you're eating in the moment, it's based on wanting pleasure immediately. And you guys know that when you want pleasure immediately, it's usually gonna make you eat foods that will make you gain weight, something like chocolate or sugar. So instead of making decisions from that primal part of your brain, you want to start planning your food ahead of time. I usually recommend my clients to start planning what they're gonna eat the next day, like start planning that the night before so they could make decisions that are in alignment with their weight loss goals. Now, before I go to secret number 3, if you want to know how to plan your foods ahead of time, I actually created a planner for my clients and for myself, which helps you learn how to make your food plan ahead of time, and something I call the purpose planner, and it has been a game changer for me. You can see I write in it myself, but basically it's a tool that I tell all my clients to write in the night before so they could plan their food ahead of time, so they could start accessing this part of their brain that's more evolved and make food decisions from their future self, from the goals that they want to achieve. So if you want to learn how to use this planner, if you want to learn how to start planning your food ahead of time and have access to my planner, you could click the link in the description below and get your own copy of my purpose planner. Finally, secret number 3 is that you have to find joy and happiness in other ways besides food. Now you might be wondering, what does this have to do with snacking? Well, so many of us have been taught that snacking is entertainment, that snacking is a way to keep ourselves busy, it's a way to keep ourselves occupied and pass the time. Think about when you eat popcorn at a movie theater, or think about when you are watching football or with your friends and you're socializing and you're eating food. A lot of us eat as a source of entertainment, and we don't realize that we're doing that because it's so socialized and conditioned in our culture. So what happens to a lot of my clients who are women entrepreneurs is that at the end of their day, after working on their business, they go down in their living room, they sit down and watch TV, watch Netflix, and when they're watching TV, that's the time they want to snack. So if you're noticing that you're wanting to snack during your free time, you have to ask yourself, how can I find joy? How can I entertain myself? How can I enjoy the moment without food? And it might mean being more present with the TV show you're watching, like maybe paying attention more to the show, maybe just focusing on maybe your partner, like spending time with your partner, if you have that time with your partner. Like thinking of ways to make it more fun without food. Like maybe in the evening, you could, instead of watching TV, maybe you actually might enjoy going on a walk instead, or reading a book. But you have to find different ways to entertain yourself, or else your brain is gonna constantly want to focus on eating when you are watching TV as a form of entertainment. All right, you guys, so I have shared my top 3 secrets on how to stop over snacking on sugar and carbs so you could start getting traction on your weight loss goals and feeling in control around food. Now, while you wait for next week's episode, you could check out my other previous episodes by looking at the screen here and you could go ahead and click the next video. All right, you guys, I'll see you next time and have an amazing day.